Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential and I'm here today to share my latest make with you. Everything I talk about is available on our lovely website and you'll find links to our website and all the products that I mentioned below. So let's get started with what I've been making. It was a great way to kickstart my Sojo for 2023. I made a 60s inspired shift dress, which I absolutely love. It's just such a nice, quick, simple make. Really easy to sew, but I just love this silhouette. I love a shift dress, warm, comfortable, perfect for these grim last few winter months. And I made it in this glorious Robert Kaufman cotton flannel fabric, which is 95% cotton, 5% polyester. It's a beautiful plum colourway, which I really love, that sort of rich plummy colour. And I'll try and show you, if I can, that it's got these beautiful colourful flecks on the fabric. I hope the camera's picking those up, but they're little subtle flecks of pink, green and blue that run through the fabric and just give it an interesting little bit of texture and colour. And yeah, it was just an absolute joy to sew with this fabric, to the point that I was halfway through the project pressing it and thinking, oh, this is pressing so nicely. I put the zip in, the zip went in beautifully, there was no dramas, it was just lovely. And halfway through the project I just thought I need to make something in the black colourway as well, because we've got the black colourway of this one with the little flecks in, and I thought, oh, a lovely simple A-line skirt in the black would be awesome, and I'd wear it all the time in the winter, so I definitely want to get around to that. We also have a mini herringbone and a mini dogtooth in a lovely bright red and a turquoise on the website, and we've got a more traditional sort of large check flannel on the website as well, all Robert Kaufman, all gorgeous. So I'll pop links to all of those below for you so you can find those. But as I say, this is the lovely plum colourway, and I made this 1960s inspired shift dress. Really happy with the fit, and just the fabric was absolutely perfect for it. So I knew I wanted a classic shift dress. As I say, just lovely and comfortable and cosy for this time of year, layering it up with a turtleneck like I've done today. It's just perfect for work. And just really comfortable and easy to wear. So the pattern I chose was Simplicity 1609, which is also available on our website. It's a reissued original 1960s pattern. There's even a little bit of trivia about 60s fashion in here in the instructions, which I thought was really cute. And you can make the simple shift dress like I did, or you can make one with a Peter Pan collar, or there's one with a bow on the front as well. And it's just a classic sort of shift dress style. So it's got bust darts, it's got a big French dart that comes up from the side seams, and then it's got fish darts at the back for shaping. But it was very, very simple to sew. I only used 2 pattern pieces because I lined it, and I'll talk to you more about that later. But great way to get off the starting blocks in January if you're feeling a bit meh after Christmas and you're kind of wondering where that Sojo is going to come from. I think a project like this is a great place to start. So the pattern runs in sizes from a 6 to a 22. A 22 is a 44 bust, 37 waist and a 46 hip. I made a 12 at the bust and graded to a 14 at the waist and the hips. And that was a little bit trickier to do than usual because it's one of those patterns that all the patterns aren't on one piece. So like the 8 and the 12 were on one piece and the 10 and the 14 were on the other. And I wanted to grade between the 12 and the 14. So I cut the 12 out and then I put it on top of the 14. I kept the 12 darts because obviously I'm a 12 on the bust and the upper body, and then I just graded out to the 14 from the waist and the hips, and I'm really pleased with the fit. I did do a high round back and forward shoulder adjustment, which I do on everything I ever make, and I've put a tutorial on our channel for that. That's just if you find you've got a curvature at the top of your back, it just adds a little bit of room into the pattern at the back so that your shoulder seams are in the right place and there's enough coverage across your back with the fabric. So I always do that every time I make something. I decided, because I was lining it and the lining is very inexpensive, I thought I'm going to make the lining first and just test for fit with that. But I was also able to just test my sewing on the lining fabric as well, because that was a bit trickier to sew with. The Robert Kaufman flannel was an absolute dream. The lining fabric, because it's quite lightweight, it did pucker quite badly, so I was able to use the toile to just practice and get my sewing techniques right with that. So a few little tips for if you get puckering fabric like that: try lengthening your stitch. Try reducing your presser foot pressure. The other thing I did that you can do if it's puckering is if you just apply a little bit of pressure to the fabric and just hold it a little bit taut as it runs through the machine, that can also really reduce the puckers as well. And I did that with this lining fabric and it worked really well. I tried the lining on and I was happy with the fit, but I decided that actually I was probably going to sew the side seams with a 3/8 seam and sew the back seam, centre back seam, with a 1/2 inch seam, just to give me a little bit more room, because it fitted really well, but I wanted to be able to get a jumper on underneath. And just making the lining first, I didn't put the zip in, I just pinned everything in place, but it just allowed me to just test the fit and just make sure I was happy. And I think the fit's spot on really for a shift dress now, for wearing a jumper underneath it. You know, it's enough room, but it's not overly roomy, it's still quite fitted, which is what I wanted. The other alterations I made were I shortened it quite considerably, so it probably would have been below the knee or at the knee on me. I'm 5'6". Because I wanted to wear it with thick black tights, I would always rather have a shorter hem length for thick black tights. I just think it looks better. So I reduced the hem length quite considerably. I just tried it on, put a pin where I wanted the hem to finish, and then measured up from the hem and trimmed away any excess. I hemmed the lining just by sewing the edge on my overlocker, and I finished it about 1 inch or 1/2 inch shorter than probably about 1 inch shorter than the dress. And then the actual dress, it was the perfect fabric to do a blind hem on. So because it's thick and it's kind of a heavier weave, it's a great fabric to do a blind hem on. It's absolutely invisible, the blind hem is, but it was much quicker and easier than hand sewing it. And I'm really pleased with that finish. The other thing I did as well was I did taper the side seams. So I didn't want the A-line to be too exaggerated, and it was quite exaggerated on this dress. So I just tapered those in, and I'm really pleased with how that's ended up. It's still a nice gentle A-line, but not overly wide A-line. So that worked out really well as well. In terms of the construction, as I say, it was really a lovely simple sew. Oh, the other thing I should say actually is about the bust darts. So when I did the toile, I felt like the bust darts were in the right place, but I noticed it was a little bit baggy under the bust where the French darts were pointing towards the bust. And I did make a bit of a rookie error here, you know, and it just goes to show, even when you're really experienced, I've been sewing for a long time now, you can still make mistakes. And my favourite mantra is you never stop making them, you just get better at fixing them. So I just think that's reassuring for any new sewers out there to hear that, you know, things go wrong for all of us, but, you know, there's usually a way to fix it. And if there's not, well, you learn from it anyway. So I always try and have that mindset with my sewing. But I thought, oh, it's just because the lining fabric's quite flimsy and it's, you know, it's going to hang differently in the flannel, which is a thicker, heavier fabric. I thought, oh, it'll be all right. And then when I actually made the flannel dress up, the bagginess was still there under the bust. It was as if it was too big under the bust here where the French darts were coming up. But the way I fixed it, because I am really pleased with the fit there now, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Everything's pointing towards my bust apex. So yeah, very pleased with that. But all I did with the French darts, I just needed to take some more fabric out under here. So I just lengthened them. I just took some more out and lengthened them. They are closer to my bust apex now, but they're still probably, I'd say, 1/2 inch away from my bust apex, which when you've got a small bust like me is fine. Generally, if you're fuller busted, the advice is to try and finish your darts points 1 inch to 2 inches away from your bust apex. But if you're smaller busted like me, 1/2 inch to 1 inch generally is fine. And yeah, I'm really pleased with the fit there. That was how I've remedied that, and that worked out really well in the end. Also, just to say, most people probably wouldn't have that problem. With me, I do tend to find that bust darts sometimes aren't high enough. I'm quite high busted, so I do tend to find that quite often, but I think most people don't. I think it's just because I'm quite small busted, that's why that's the case. But that was the fix I used anyway. So the construction, as I say, super simple. I cut out the front and back bodice in the lining, and I cut out the front and the back bodice in the main fabric. No facings, nothing like that. Literally just 2 pieces in the lining and in the main fabric. I sewed all the darts in place, and then to line it, love this trick, it's a really good one. Lots of patterns will tell you to line the dress and then hand sew the shoulder seams of the lining afterwards. However, with this method, it's a lot more fun, it looks a lot more professional and neatly finished, and it's just quicker and easier to do as well. So I'm just going to share this little tip with you. But what you do is sew all your darts, sew your shoulder seams on your main fabric, and also sew your shoulder seams on your lining fabric. Put your lining and your main fabric right sides together, sew round the neckline and round each of the armholes. Trim and grade and snip round your curves so that you get a nice neat finish. And then you take your lining fabric and you pass it through the gap between the lining shoulder seam and the main garment shoulder seam. You pass it through there, you pull it through the other end, and you keep going until you turn the garment the right way out on that one side, and then you repeat the process on the other side. And what you have is a lovely machine stitched neat shoulder seam on both your lining fabric and your main garment fabric. It looks super neat. Really professional, and as I say, it's just a lot of fun to do. You do feel pretty cool when you turn that lining through. It's a nice feeling. You feel like, wow, I'm a professional, I know what I'm doing. It's one of those little sewing techniques. Personally, it gives me a little buzz anyway when I do it. And then after I'd done that, I understitched round the curves, around the neckline and the armholes as far as I could, and just another little rave about the fabric, about the Robert Kaufman fabric, which is on our site, and the patterns on our site, and the lining fabric. I've popped links to all of them below for you, but just the way it works with the lining fabric, the way it pressed, oh, just lovely, super neat finish. I really enjoyed making this. So yeah, that's how I did the lining. Then I put the invisible zip in the back. And then I was able to just test the side seams and just make sure I was happy with the fit there. And that was it. It was a really simple, lovely, fun sew. I was able to do a blind hem. I was able to do the turning through exercise, you know, a few different techniques. Sewing the French darts was quite nice. One thing I will mention about those as well, it's a French dart whereby the centre section of the dart is cut out and removed, so it ends up like a triangle with the fabric either side, and there's a gap in the middle, like a triangle shaped gap in the middle. When I first was messing around and practicing with the lining fabric, doing my toile, I tried to join the raw edges of the that triangle up so that they were in a straight line, and I couldn't work out why things weren't matching up properly at the end. And then I realised, you know, you're not supposed to do it like that. There is actually a little dot on the pattern that if you match the 2 dots up at the end of the dart where it joins the side seam, and then it's sort of like almost like a curve. It's almost like doing a princess seam or something. You need to match the raw edges of the fabric up rather than trying to make them a straight line. Match them up so it'll almost be a gentle curve. It was very easy. There wasn't lots of fabric to ease in or anything like that. But again, that, you know, as an experienced sewer, even it took me a couple of goes to think, why isn't this working? And then I realised. But all in all, absolutely thrilled with this dress. I hope you guys like it too. I'm definitely going to get lots and lots of wear out of this now, but for years to come as well, because I do think it's a classic, you know, I do think a classic shift dress in a lovely warm cozy fabric that goes with lots of different things is always going to be a winner in my winter wardrobe. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with it. So don't forget, the best way you can support me to carry on making this content is by jumping onto our lovely website, having a look around. I've linked the patterns and the fabrics below and all those tutorials I mentioned as well. If you like what you see today, please like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.